The knife slipped through the cake as if it were cutting a secret in two, and the secret exploded across the room. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe. Fade in. A warm living room stretched with folding chairs, paper plates, and confetti stuck to the edge of a windowsill. Late afternoon sun paints the curtains gold. Balloons bob like lazy planets. Laughter loops through the house, polite, low volume, because half the crowd is related, and family gets careful about noise after a funeral. Maggie holds the cake knife. Her hand is steady. Her black dress is still correct, still neat, but the grief has hollowed the expression that used to live around her eyes. Around the table, cousins and neighbors settle, their phone cameras raised in the way of people who archive awkward joy. Her sister, Claire, stands up as if the floor has pushed her. She lifts the toddler in one arm, the child's small boots kick at nothing. Claire's smile is too bright, her lipstick too new for a house still smelling faintly of lilies from the wake. "My son," Claire says, her voice finding the room and holding it, "is not just mine." Silence. A spoon clatters. Somewhere a toddler hushes mid-cry, and the house breathes in. Claire holds the child up like a proclamation. He is Samuel's. Her eyes find Maggie like a pistol finding a target. He is Samuel's son. There's a sort of physical pause, as if the tick of a clock scarred the air. Maggie's first instinct is not to shout or to crumble. She feels the scene through the slow, precise logic she's developed over months. Memory is a film strip running backward. A wedding at 22, a man who said forever with his mouth and kept it with his steadiness. The days when his hand fit in hers like a promise. But then the edges frayed. Shirts that smelled like someone else. Laughter that ended when Maggie crossed the room. A phone that slid from his pocket like a secret. She remembers a note, careless or arrogant, blinking on that phone. "Next time, don't leave the necklace." She almost saw it. Maggie could have collapsed the night she found out. She didn't. She learned to breathe again with the same calmness she used to arrange fresh sheets on the bed, methodically, without tears leaking the seams. There are two kinds of people when a marriage breaks: the ones who burn and the ones who build. Maggie built. She had watched them for months, collected small things, the scent on a shirt, a lipstick smudge in a cuff, the timing of phone calls. She did not storm out, she did not make a scene. She learned to ask nothing and record everything. Cut to an earlier evening. Soft lamplight, a kitchen table strewn with papers. Maggie sipped coffee, the steam fogging her glasses, while a lawyer explained options with the comforting, clinical cadence of someone who's used to grief being a spreadsheet. He said, "You'll need clear language. We can put the house into a trust with survivorship. We can rework the will, make it specific. We can ensure probate won't be your battleground." His hands tapped a file like a metronome. He didn't know the half of it, that Maggie had planted the very set of papers he waved, the red pen she'd used on the margin. She remembers slipping the revised will among the other documents the week Samuel signed papers for a car loan. He'd been distracted, tired from late nights, and she'd kissed him, warm and conspiratorial, and asked him to sign. He signed things he trusted her to handle. In his mind, he'd done what she asked. In Maggie's mind, a plan had just been notarized. Back to the present. Claire's proclamation ricochets across the living room. Someone laughs, the nervous smallness of someone trying to fill silence, and then hushes when Maggie's eyes lock on Claire's. "Do you have proof?" someone says from the back. The neighbor with a casserole dish over his knee tries to be reasonable. The world is built on proof. Claire pulls from her purse a folder thick with photocopied pages, plastic sleeves like armor. "His will," she says. It says she waves the paper like a flag. Maggie sets the cake knife down, plate trembling. The movement is deliberate, not panicked. In the kitchen, a clock chimes. The room's attention folds toward her like waves toward a shore. Claire continues, tone rising with triumph. He loved me. He told me he would take care of his son. I'm just here to make sure he does. She smiles at the child as if that smile could stitch every loose end together. The betrayal, the late nights, the whispered promises. A cousin at the head of the table speaks up, voice small and unsure. But Maggie, you and Sam were married. You lived together. Didn't he leave anything to you? They all look at Maggie expecting a human reaction, a wail, a faint, an angry retort. Instead, Maggie's face is a map of calm geographies. She remembers the funeral, how people said she was strong, how photographs captured a woman who didn't crack. She remembers Claire at the graveside, overacting grief like a professional, clinging to the boy she had not yet named in the world. Maggie's voice is low when she speaks. I see. The words hang like a small clinical verdict. Flashback. A courtroom interior, sunlight through blinds, cutting lines on a mahogany table. Maggie's lawyer had looked over documents once, twice, his face softening at the edges as reality sunk in. He said, This will leaves everything to you. It's notarized, witnessed, there's no ambiguity. He handed the official copy across the table. Maggie had felt the paper cool and permanent in her hand, a kind of iron. She had not waved it around. She had not told anyone. She had not wanted to celebrate. There is a particular cruelty in winning quietly when everyone expects you to lose loudly. Revenge in a tuxedo is less satisfying than revenge in silence, she had thought. Let them make their accusations. Let them scream. The law would whisper the truth. Back in the living room, Claire's eyes narrow. Legal language is not her strong suit. Dramatics are. She spits finally, the color bleeding from her voice. Her hands tremble. You forged it. You tricked him. You planned this. She looks at the child as if he were a coin whose face had changed. A well-meaning neighbor reaches to separate them. Now, let's not... But his hand drops because the dynamics between sisters is not a simple thing to defuse. Maggie drops into a chair, as if returning to a familiar seat. She crosses one leg over the other with the casual arrogance of someone who knows the end of the story and is willing to wait for the final page. You should be careful, Claire, she says. Public declarations are easy. Paper is harder. Her face is a canvas of panic now. It's the public unraveling that terrifies her, not the law, but the social ledger. People will believe me, she insists, lips thinning. I have witnesses. She listens as the room leans in. She remembers small things that are not on paper, the way Claire braided her hair when they were children, the late-night conversations about boys, the first time they shared a cereal box between them because there wasn't money enough for both of them. Those memories make the next moment cut deeper. Claire had always been reckless with truth, always hungry for attention. She had forgiven that before because sisters are a kind of permanent kindness. But forgiveness had its limits. Betrayal, especially the slow, secret kind, changes the ledger. The cousin who had defended Claire earlier now fumbles with his phone, face gone pale. Someone else has started whispering, an informal poll at a funeral party, and low notes of suspicion spread like spilled tea. A neighbor's wife turns away, eyes rimmed. Invitations wear out quickly. Social circles are merciless. Gossip, once aroused, is efficient. Claire's voice dips down into a desperate, pleading tone. Please, Maggie, she says, near tears. She comes closer, small and human, in the way only sincere fear makes you. Please don't do this. He is my son. I need him. You can't take his life away. She presses her palms together as if in prayer, and the child reaches for her, a soft, uncomprehending fist around her thumb. Maggie studies her with the kind of attention she once reserved for gardens and small thrift store ornaments. Up close, her mascara has run at the edges, the bravado gone, leaving a frightened woman who'd traded long-term love for a short-term thrill. The sight is almost, not pity, but a recognition that people self-sabotage when they panic. My sister, Maggie says. The words hold the weight of a childhood house, of scraped knees and midnight whispers. There is fatigue in them, but also the cold edge of someone who has chosen her stance and will not be moved. You ruined this, she says quietly. You chose this. Claire's plea fractures then. She grasps for reasons, for excuses. I loved him, she says. It's the age-old defense, small and needy, that sometimes disguises itself as gospel. He told me he loved me. Maggie hears everything and files it away as one might file a receipt for an expense incurred. She thinks of the funeral, how people had patted her shoulder and murmured condolences. She thinks of Samuel's face, the man she married, and the life they had built. She thinks of the knot that was now unraveling and the careful way she had tied the legal corner that would secure what remained. The living room breathes again, and conversations flutter back to life, except in the way of a place that's been punctured, careful, tentative, changed. Claire stumbles to the doorway and then stops, as if waiting for the world to choose sides. The knock at my door that night wasn't just my sister. It was the ghost of Samuel himself, clawing back from the grave with ink and paper. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe. The house was hushed, wrapped in that heavy silence that only comes after a storm of family whispers. The dishes were stacked, the balloons sagging in corners, and the smell of icing still clung to the air like perfume overstayed. Maggie had just set her teacup down when the knock came. Not a timid tap, not a neighbor's polite check-in, a firm, desperate knock, knuckles cracking against wood. She opened the back door, and there was Claire. Eyes swollen from crying, hair undone, lips bitten raw. In her hands, trembling, unsteady, was a folded sheet of paper. She held it out like it was both a weapon and a lifeline. "Maggie," she whispered, her voice frayed at the edges. "You didn't see everything. He left me this." Maggie didn't take it immediately. Instead, she let the pause sit there, filling the night air between them. The crickets outside stopped for a moment, as if even nature leaned in to listen. Finally, she reached for the paper. The handwriting was Samuel's. She recognized it immediately. The angled strokes, the impatient slant he used when signing checks, the half-formed letters like he was always in a hurry to finish. It was a letter. No, more than that. It was a confession. "If anything happens to me," it began, "make sure she knows. Make sure Maggie knows I loved her even if I betrayed her. Claire, you'll be taken care of. I'll see to it. For our son." Her throat tightened. She read the words twice, then 3 times, searching for cracks, for the lie hidden in ink. But it was his hand. It was his phrasing. It was real. Claire's eyes were burning with that frantic hope only the desperate know. "See? He promised. He wanted us to be a family. He wanted me to be safe. He loved me, Maggie. He loved me too." Maggie's jaw stiffened. Love? That word was a knife when spoken from Claire's mouth. "If he loved you," she said softly, "why did he marry me? Why did he come home to me every night for 20 years? Claire's voice cracked. "Because you were safe. You were the good wife, the one he could trust to keep his world together. But with me," she paused, clutching the child in her memory more than in her arms, "with me, he was alive." The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was thick, the kind that weighed down lungs. Maggie stared at her sister, at the girl who had once braided her hair under summer porches, the girl who used to steal lipstick from drugstores, the girl who had grown into a woman who stole her husband instead. Finally, Maggie folded the paper carefully, slowly, like something sacred. She placed it on the kitchen counter, beside her teacup. "Claire," she said, her voice even, "this doesn't change what's written in the law." "But it changes everything else," Claire insisted, stepping closer. "The family will believe me now. They'll know he wanted me, that he wanted us. You can't keep the truth buried with him." Maggie looked at her with eyes that no longer saw a sister, but an opponent who didn't understand the battlefield. "The truth," she repeated. "The truth is not what you wave around in letters. The truth is what survives when the gossip fades and the courts are done. And in that world, Claire, you have nothing." Her breath hitched, but her chin lifted in defiance. "Then I'll fight. I'll tell them all. Everyone. That boy is his blood. You can't erase him, Maggie. You can't erase me." Flash forward 2 weeks. A courthouse hallway, echoing with footsteps. Lawyers shuffle papers, their voices, flat and detached. Claire sits with her lawyer, knuckles white against the folder that contains Samuel's so-called letter. Across the hall, Maggie sits calmly, her hands folded in her lap, her black dress replaced with gray silk, her hair pinned in place with the same precision she lived by. The hearing is brief, clinical. The notarized will is presented. Clear, witnessed, ironclad. Samuel's estate belongs entirely to Maggie. Claire's letter is read, yes, but the judge leans back with a sigh. "He's a personal note," he says, almost kindly, "but it is not a legal directive." The gavel falls. Claire's lawyer looks at her with pity, his shoulders sagging. Claire's world collapses in that hollow, airless courtroom. She'd come armed with a promise written in love, but unrecognized by law. Maggie arises, her heels clicking softly against the tile. She doesn't smile. She doesn't gloat. She simply walks past her sister as if passing a stranger in the street. Claire calls out, voice ragged, "Please, Maggie, please don't let them take everything. He's still my son." Maggie stops once and turns her head slightly. Her words are quiet, but carry across the hallway like steel dragged on stone. "He's your son, yes, but he was my husband, and you chose to forget that." Time skips forward again. The neighborhood whispers louder now. Invitations no longer arrive for Claire. The once proud birthday photos of her boy are met with silence, with sidelong glances, with judgment she cannot scrub away. At grocery stores, old friends avert their eyes. At church, pews empty on either side of her. Her son, innocent, confused, carries a last name that draws murmurs in the playground. The punishment is not loud, but it is relentless. And one evening, when the world has finally quieted, Maggie sits alone by her fireplace, the flames painting shadows on her face. She pulls from a drawer the folded letter Claire had given her. She reads Samuel's words one last time. "Make sure Maggie knows I loved her." For the first time since the funeral, Maggie lets herself cry. Not because of Claire, not because of the betrayal, but because buried somewhere inside those lies, there might have been a truth she'll never be able to confirm. She wipes her tears, folds the letter back, and slips it into the fire. The flames curl the paper, blackening the words until they are nothing but smoke. And as the ashes rise, Maggie whispers to the empty room, "You wanted her, you chose me. In the end, Samuel, you gave us nothing but ruin." Final scene. Claire stands outside Maggie's gate weeks later, her son clinging to her leg. Her eyes are hollow, her voice just a breath. "Please, Maggie, for him. Don't punish him for what we did." Maggie looks at the boy. Samuel's eyes, Samuel's smile, but also a life untouched by their parents' sins. She kneels, brushes his hair from his forehead gently, and says nothing to Claire. She only whispers to the child, "Make better choices than your mother did." She closes the gate softly, leaving Claire in the dusk, the boy's hand clutching her dress. The camera lingers on Maggie's face, calm and unreadable as she disappears back into the house,
a fortress built not only of brick and inheritance, but of wounds too deep to ever heal.